my name is Alex, and I'm from a company called Perpetto, but that's not the idea, the center of the presentation. What I want to apologize up front is that this presentation is the standard template. It looks awful, so I was forced to do it. I literally cried doing it, but I had to do it. So, what it is an important topic, and it is more of a high-level overview, and because it's just a broad topic, it can not go into that many details. But what my main goal here is, and will be, is to show you that it's not that complicated, and that it's important. So that is it. And before that, yeah, exactly. Can I just ask who from you is actually, running an e-commerce store? It's 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3. I've posted a question on Twitter with the hashtag of the event, MM16PL. And if you have Twitter maybe installed and you can just answer it, then that will make me go into detail into one of the topics that follow. But that's only if you want. So I'll just start with a little bit about me. I studied in Germany. I studied informatics and digital media. I'm a huge fan of these things. This is my passion. I play tennis. I did user experience for a lot of my time, and in my university studies and later in my job, I deal with data and algorithms and automation. So afterwards, I worked for kind of like small, medium, and big German brands that were into e-commerce and were basically consumer-oriented. So I was doing for them either the e-commerce UX design and then the implementation with the agency I worked for, or marketing-related projects. And then the combination of data and algorithms from my studies, and then the problems of these companies just made me realize that we're wasting a lot of data and a lot of knowledge about the people. And basically, we're just stuffing information into them. They don't even know who signed up like half a year ago, what they did, what they bought, nothing. They have no idea, even the bigger brands, the bigger names. So for me, it's kind of stuck with my head, and I wanted to devote to it. And so this leads into the topic. And today, these were the 2 things that I repeated before that. These are going to be the main topics. First is just understand that customer lifetime value is important, and you should be measuring it if you're not. And if you're not, don't worry. Most of the companies do not measure it. So we have a few people here that run e-commerce stores. You measure lifetime value, but repeatedly over time. Sometimes, okay, once a year, twice a year, okay, that's good. So 1 out of 4, so we're definitely doing good here, 25% of people doing it. So that's the one part, understanding it for those that don't. Also, if you're an agency, you have to stuff this into the minds of your clients. It's one of the most important numbers. And then for the second part, I just wanted to let you know that it is not that complicated to do 80% of what you can do about it. So with like 1 or 2 products, or with a little bit of improvement, you can do a huge deal of improvement, and that you can see. We will see immediate effects and also long-term effects. So that was it. Just before I just wanted to ask how many people of you were dealing with it, and so why it is important. It brings up 3 important aspects. First of all, we're dealing with real people here, right? So you heard today one thing was people are becoming dictators, right? They want more and more from you, and that's not going to change. We heard also competition is fierce, acquisition is expensive, AdWords is expensive. So we know that in our background, and it kind of leads into the fact that once a visitor of your store becomes a customer, you have to make sure that you are relevant to him, and that you show him that you care, and that you do everything you can to optimize that communication afterwards to make that relationship longer. And that in order to do this, you have to know that he has preferences and interests, right? This is what comes out of the data, and this is what you base your communication on afterwards. Why is it important? Because it's a indicator of how successful you are in retaining customers, and it's a number that actually shows sustainability in your business. And how to measure it? It's a real simple formula. I'll show it afterwards. It can be complicated, but it has a simple version. So starting off with the first one, the real person. This is a screenshot of what I receive regularly in my inbox. I have an email address where I sign up for different online shops. So you see here a newsletter I received. They haven't even figured out whether I'm a male or a female, right? So for me, that is a no-go, definitely no-go. Then also you have to know what is the frequency of campaigns that you should be sending. Is it okay to send an email every day? Is it okay to send once a week? You have to know that, and all these details add up in time. The person have categories or brands that he's interested in but hasn't bought anything from yet. What does he have in his wish list? Are there any new discounts of products that he hasn't seen but hasn't bought? It's all this information that if you use correctly, and then send it also at the right moment, and that's what makes this communication seem more relevant to him, and also it benefits you, but it benefits him as well. And Mr. Rockefeller here, that's his company back then, did his research, found out that actually it's not about the product that you're selling that makes the customer stay. It's about whether they believe you care about them, and that's it. That's what, 75% almost. That's so simple. It's it's just people want to know they're appreciated, and they want to know that they're that you care about them, nothing more. And also you have to know that granting their email address and granting them their the first amount of money after becoming a customer, granting this trust also doesn't last forever. With time, any communication you have will decline in effectiveness. It's just the way it is. People are not do not feel obliged to respond to whatever you send them. So this is a natural effect that you cannot run away from, but you can minimize the bad effects of it. And if you have, for example, if in your market you have competition or word of mouth is really strong, the things I showed you at the beginning are really a possibility for a negative effect over time. It might backfire on your business in the long term. Might not be obvious, might not come quick, but it's definitely something you should think of. And that was what I was talking about. So apart from the pure communication with people, it's also an important business metric, and it shows sustainability. So if over time you care about those customers and you make from the first-time customers repeat customers, they generate repeat revenue, and in some time, I hope for you, your repeat revenue will become more than your new revenue. And that's almost like a point of no return. So if you do that, then you have a bright future, because it shows that you're doing stuff for it. This is also a long-term effect, so it's kind of hard to just drop all of a sudden. So if you do the right things on the way, the trajectory is going to remain the same. And it's for you, that's the place you want to be in. The solid line, this is a research from RJ Metrics. They were acquired by Magento. Probably you've seen it. If you haven't, this is a real good study. The solid lines, I've changed because they are the top performing companies, and the dotted lines are the average. So you can see, they all begin with the majority of the percentage being new customers. So you pay for acquisition, you have new customers, but then over time, and at the end you see the best. They haven't cracked the point where they can expect long returning business, repeat business from customers. And so it begins with how to measure it, right? It's a simple formula. Again, I'm sorry for that much text. I just had to use the slides. It's really a function of three things, and one you can add at the end if you want. It's a function of how often they buy from you, how much they're spending, for how long time, and what's your margin. The margin is something that you can use at the end. You can multiply the result and just get the margin out, or you can leave it because it doesn't play out at the end result. If you do things for those main variables inside it, then you are actually going to end up with a good result in some time. So and also the time, you have to fix the time to a certain time frame. For example, 1 year, because every year you wanna compare the results with the previous one. So we cut the time, we just fix it to a certain period. Margins come afterwards, and we're left with two main drivers. The one driver is the frequency, and the other is the order value. And both of them, people have been researching it and have developed solutions, and there is technology. Both of them can be improved. And the second part is that actually you have to understand it's not that hard. It's not a rocket science. You can be up and running without having to go through complicated sales calls, demos, integrations, or whatnot, and do the 80% improvement, the critical improvement that you need in both of them. And we'll start with each one of them, and then I also would like to point out that it is also possible, and with pure Excel even, to predict who are going to be your most profitable customers, and also show you that this really counts in the long term as well. So first of all, these are the things: the AOV, the retention, and predicting and retaining the most valuable customers. First of all comes the order values, right? So you've heard most of the words here, and I want to go into one detail. So for me, it's really important, coming from the data and algorithms background. It's important for a solution to be automated. So that means it's efficient. It means, first of all, it saves you time. That means you don't need more people to do more of it. Second of all, it's scalable. That means if you have 1,000 customers now and 100,000 in 1 year, you'll have the same efficiency because it's scalable. Third of all, it means you have made good decisions about technology. That means that you have put yourself in a good way, on a good path. So all these things combined makes it, just automation is important in that sense. So I want to add up, just say which one of them can be automated and which of them can be not, and which of them can be semi-automated. The standard cross-selling and upselling algorithms, they're completely automated. So you just put them on your website and they start working. If they're correctly implemented, they will have results, and you will see that. And if they're not, then most probably the vendor will not show you the effectiveness of each of the algorithm and combine the results with a fancy percentage number at the end of the month. And you will not be able to A/B test, and B, break down the results of whatever it's claimed to be improved into which page, which algorithm, which widget was contributing to that improvement. So these things are completely automated, and they are part of solutions that are combining them all together. So this is probably one thing. Then comes bundling. Bundling is a semi-automated solution because it actually you have to define rules of how the software bundles. So you have to define rules such as if the person buys a product from a category category ski, and that product is containing the word helmet, then you have to also let him know that he has to buy a product from the category ski accessories, and it contains shoes and gloves and whatever. So, and then you have to go to the products that you know cannot function without the other, and within each of these boundaries that you set for each product, the algorithm will find what are the most suitable, and they're just presented. So that way you can also automate the bundles. You don't have to say, this glass goes only with that bottle of water, and select each product, single-handedly. Whereas you can define rules between categories of products and keywords. So that way it becomes state automated. Afterwards, it can run. Price-based rules, you know them as well. They can be usually set from the platform itself, and it's just free shipping threshold, a free third product after a certain price threshold, and others that the platform offers. So these are the ones that are going to have the biggest impact on the average order values. And afterwards comes retention. And it's a complicated task, but studies and research and everything shows that retention is made through communication. And how do you communicate with your customers? With emails, right? So retention solutions most often are involving you communicating with customers over email. It's not social media retargeting. It is not any social sharing on your website. It actually is. It's compared as if it's the same way how you communicate with your friends or families. If you don't call for a birthday, or if you don't call for 3 months, or if you don't care for that person just avoids you, it's already too late. So you have to start early. And studies also show that in order to make repeat customers, you have to spend a lot of time optimizing the first 30 days. So that's the most important period. And therefore, onboarding is a completely separate part of the measures that you can do. This one, you can do it even with MailChimp. You can go to MailChimp and say, every time a new person subscribes, send him these 4 emails and these 3 emails, and just tell what your brand stands for, what your products actually stand for, how are they different. Just tell them your story, because this is how you build trust and a relationship. It's not about, thanks for signing up, please view these new products that I've added. It's not about that. So this you can do really easily, and your goal here is to make the person commit again within that period. Because after that happens, the conversion rate with him is nearly doubled. So a third, a fourth, a fifth purchase from him is almost certain, if you manage to do this. If you don't, then you continue, of course, but that's the most crucial part, because afterwards it may be just too late to get a repeat purchase. And if you don't get that repeat purchase, the more time it goes, the harder it is to get it. After that period comes lifecycle email marketing. There are many terms. It's basically marketing that is based on what the person does and doesn't do. That is, it's more complicated solution. Here it's involved segmentation, and you can do different types of segmentation. You can do, one-off segmentation by saying, okay, I want to check my historic data, and I want to email all people that have bought from a specific category, and then repeat those, this exercise multiple times. Dynamic segmentation is basically you defining a segment, and once a person out of all of your customers fits into that segment, then he gets a certain email or a sequence of emails. So that means this then becomes completely automated, because you set up those rules. When a person does that, send him this email, and you forget about it. And this can be based on purchasing behavior, browsing behavior, and also on the activity he has with your communication. For example, if he hasn't opened up none of those onboarding emails, then why not just email him directly and say, look, I know you haven't opened it though, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts about it. Just let me know. Here's my number. I am the founder of this company. For me, it would be interesting to know. There's a great company doing just that for SaaS solutions called Intercom, and basically their mission is to make business personal, and that's all they do is just research that part, the first 2 parts, and letting you have the tools so that you can understand what the problem is and then act before it happens. And this is the second part. So these can be automated completely. Customer support is something that you know. It's something that is a crucial part, but something that is manual. So that depends whether you have time, whether you have a team, whether it's really important what products you sell. It depends on many stuff, but it's also important. And the fourth part is, it's really popular one, loyalty systems. It means you just define rules, how to incentivize people to commit more often to you, and then with some sort of gamification, earn points, redeem points, and just make them, make them a bit more happier next time that they purchase from you. That is also semi-automated because you set up the rules and then they run, but it requires large margins. That's the one setback. You cannot give discounts for just about everything. For example, we have clients that have 4, 5, 6% of margins. They cannot do discounts. It's just not possible. And so if you've done this part here and some of this part as well, probably the upper half, maybe one of the below ones, then you are improving both drivers of the lifetime value. So if you're here, it means you're important. It's important for you, and if it's important to you, then these are the main things that you can improve. And that would not take more time from your team. It would improve both. It will improve them long term, and it's just a win-win situation. And the third component is whether you know who those customers are that are 3 times more valuable than all the others. So this is also research, also RGA metrics. They have the volume to do those kinds of researches. And it just says one simple thing. There are these little, these are this type of customers, your VIPs or high spenders. They are the top 5%. So they're not many, but they spend 3 times more, even on the first day, than all the others. And the important difference is the others spend 90% of what they spend on the first day, whereas the top performers, they continue to spend money with you. So if you know who they are, then you should treat them separately than all the rest, because their feedback, first of all, you can create brand ambassadors from these people, not from the average Joe here, not from everyone else. If you treat these people right, like send them a present or just say them thank you, you've been us for such a long time, and how do you like your products? Please leave a review. And this is how you can actually generate that positive feedback that will help you, of course, earn even more trust, even more recognition. But this is important, and how it's done. It's done based on the first purchase. So if you take this 5% of people, and in machine learning, these are called features. And if you take the features of their first order, product categories, order value, and maybe acquisition source, if you know it, and you say, okay, these top 5% of people have most often these categories in their order. It has above this value, and their acquisition source was one of these 3. Then you can use that information just to compare every next first order with it. And the match will just let you know with what percentage of certainty that first order will turn into a top performing customer. And by seeing this difference here, it means that this this confidence level of whether it is going to be a customer, a high spender, is pretty high, because the difference is quite high. So it means that if you get to a level here, then there's a 80-90% chance that he is one. So you have to just send him something special. Just let him know that he is an outstanding customer. And this also lets you know how much money you can expect from him. So you might also send him a present. Why not? You're not going to lose money from him, definitely. So if I manage to do this in this time, then you've come to the to the awareness, to the understanding that it is a long-term investment and it is important, and that your customer is a real person, and you should just try to use the abundance of data that you have in order to understand him, and use that data that you have gathered to just make the communication not one-size-fits-all communication. So don't send out everyone the same thing. Just let people know that you care about them and that you know who they are. That makes a huge difference. And also, we have these are things that might help you get into the depth of it. We have compiled an ebook of the materials that are on the topic of customer lifetime value, written by the biggest experts out there. So from university researchers to data scientists to e-commerce founders. You can also have it in this one ebook. You don't require to opt in or anything, just download it. There's also a spreadsheet that I've made where you can export from Magento using standard data exporter. You can export CSV and import it here and have all the metrics that you've seen here. It would take a few minutes. Probably you have to rename a few columns, but you can do that exercise once a year using that spreadsheet in a weekend. I mean, that's not a problem. And also you can understand what the formulas are behind, because I haven't written them because if you see it, you'll forget it. But in this spreadsheet, you can just take them out and you can see what they are and understand them, of course. And also on our website, we have a growth calculator that we've done that it doesn't require email or anything. If you put in your store data, the amount of unique customers per year, your average order value, and a few other numbers that you probably know, you get an estimate of what you're leaving on the table. Because each day that you don't do that, you're leaving something on the table. And that's why we do it here, because we're also entrepreneurs. We also have our own businesses, and we want to help others succeed. And the good thing is about data is that you have it. The good things about algorithms is that they're not expensive and they're efficient. And so that's why we exist, actually, to provide people with that efficiency. And that was it for me. I hope you liked it, and I hope it gives you some information and some food for thought for the future. If you have anything that you want to know, just send me an email at alex@perpetto.com. Really simple. I'll make sure I answer. And also, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I know there were no questions before that, so I don't expect anything. But if you have, I'd be more than happy to answer them. We have, we have 2 minutes, so probably 1 or 2 questions. And thanks for not falling asleep. I know it's quite late. Yeah, no? No, okay. All right. Thanks a lot.